Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my new Mandalorian Season 2 video all about the Mandalorian Jedi of the past and currently on the show, Force-sensitive Mandalorians. I'm doing videos for all the episodes this season, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get those. We're doing a giveaway for Disney Plus memberships. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know, when do you think that the Mandalorian is actually going to get his hands on the Darksaber? So, blanket spoiler warning for everything that's happened on The Mandalorian so far in Season 1 and Season 2. But starting at the beginning here, there's only actually ever been one member of the Mandalorian clans, the Mandalorian people, who formally became a Jedi in the traditional sense. The important thing to remember too is that just because you're Force sensitive and you're badass with a lightsaber doesn't mean that you're a Jedi. You actually have to be a member of the Order inducted and consider yourself a Jedi, a member of the Order, to be called one. That's why even though Ahsoka is very powerful and she was trained as a Jedi, but she is not a Jedi herself. But the only Mandalorian who ever formally became a Jedi was named Tar Vizsla, and he was just a male born to House Vizsla, which is one of their powerful families on Mandalore, the homeworld, thousands of years ago. Remember the Mandalorian Jedi Wars that they talk about on the show? He was born during a period when they currently were not at war. There was no one single war, it was just a series of many wars and conflicts going back thousands and thousands of years to the dawn of the Jedi and the Old Republic. The Old Republic era is basically anywhere from 1,000 years to 25,000 years ago in galactic history, so it covers an enormous period of history. Tar Vizsla was born closer to the end of the Old Republic era. But because they weren't at war, the Jedi sensed that he was Force-sensitive and thought that he might be a bridge between their peoples and help bring about peace between the Mandalorians and the Old Republic. So as was the custom, they took him as a child and brought him to the Jedi Temple. He became a Jedi and, as was the Mandalorian custom, sought to distinguish himself from the other Jedi, fashioning a unique lightsaber that was called the Darksaber. Later he returned to the Mandalorian people as an adult, became Mandalore the Great, one of the Mandalore the Greats, the one that they speak of during The Mandalorian Season 1, and it did lead to an era of peace between the Mandalorians and the Jedi while he was alive. There's a lot of Legends canon that goes back even further in the Old Republic era that talk about other Mandalorians that were referred to as Mandalore the Great, so Mandalore is really just a title that's given to whoever's leading the entirety of the Mandalorian people at any given time. So for instance, right now on the TV show in The Mandalorian Season 2, there is no Mandalore because the clans aren't united. They're all hidden in different coverts, different pockets all over the Outer Rim territories. They've been scattered. I think part of their arc on the series is that eventually the clans will reunite and they'll retake their homeworld, or they'll find a new homeworld to live on. Then you would name a new Mandalore. But also during the Mandalorian's history, there were the Jedi Crusaders. They were a group of Mandalorians during the Mandalorian Jedi Wars over the years that were trained in Jedi fighting techniques, counter Jedi fighting techniques, and given special Beskar steel swords to fight them with. If you're talking about hand-to-hand combat, Jedi training, martial arts, make all the Terakasi references you want, there actually is a new Star Wars Disney Plus spin-off series that's going to be martial arts based, so we'll see if they have Easter eggs for that during that show. But the whole reason why they would fight Jedi with Beskar steel swords is because they're resistant to lightsabers. In fact, that's the whole reason their armor was made from Beskar steel. Originally, that didn't used to be the case. Back before they fought the Jedi, many thousands of years ago, their armor still looked like that, but it was made from more common materials, still very strong. But during the very first Mandalorian Jedi Wars, the Jedi cut through them like butter. Their forces were almost obliterated instantly. That inspired them to devise countermeasures to the Jedi weapons, and thus, Beskar steel was created. They also devised hunting and fighting tactics to match the Jedi, and the Mandalorian Crusaders were born, the Jedi Hunters, so to speak. But sometimes they also teamed up with the Jedi. If you remember Ulic Qel-Droma from the Tales of the Jedi comics, way back, he fought Exar Kun, one of the Old Republic-born human Sith Lords. There's newer canonical versions of his history where he commanded a squad of Mandalorian Jedi Crusaders during an operation, so sometimes they did work with the Jedi. But because there have been billions and billions of Mandalorians, you would think that there would be many of them that would have been Force-sensitive over the thousands and thousands of years of their culture's history. The main reason why you've only heard about Tar Vizsla being the only one to be trained as a Jedi is mostly because of all the wars that they had with the Old Republic and the Jedi themselves, just their relationship with them. So yes, there have been many Mandalorians who were born Force-sensitive but just never received any training or developed their abilities. But the very final Mandalorian Jedi War happened long after Tar Vizsla had died. With his death, relations between the Mandalorians and the Old Republic got worse, and eventually, unrelated to that, the Old Republic basically collapsed through a lot of infighting and civil wars, and out of the ashes of that, the Republic was born, the thing that died when the Empire was born. So you have the Old Republic, then the Empire, then the New Republic. But while the Old Republic was metaphorically in the process of dying, members of House Vizsla at the time, about 1,000 years ago, snuck into the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, stole back Tar Vizsla's Darksaber, and used it as a symbol to unite the Mandalorians for several hundred more years, many generations of their family, until eventually it wound up in the hands of Pre Vizsla, Jon Favreau's character on the Clone Wars series. He was also the leader of the Death Watch Mandalorians, the people that rescued Din Djarin on The Mandalorian Season 1 in that flashback scene. Death Watch themselves are a pretty big group, so we don't know if Pre Vizsla's character was actually here while this was happening at the time. But House Vizsla, the people that were passing the Darksaber down through generations of their family, is meant to be a separate group from the Death Watch Mandalorians. For instance, the Mandalorian heavy infantryman that Jon Favreau also played during The Mandalorian Season 1 was named Paz Vizsla, so he was just another member of House Vizsla too, but he didn't have the Death Watch markings on his armor, so he wasn't a member of Death Watch. But bringing this back around to Mandalorian children, also for those of you asking about Force-sensitive children that just happen to be rescued by the Mandalorians who themselves then become Mandalorians by creed, like Din Djarin, not born to Mandalorian families, but becoming Mandalorian by choice. There have also been many Force-sensitive children over the many thousands of years of their people, taken from other cultures who were inducted as Mandalorians, but never formally trained as Jedi. One of the other best examples of this is Baby Yoda, or the child, whatever you want to call him, himself. He's basically a member of the Mandalorian's clan, which kind of makes him a Mandalorian by creed, even though he himself hasn't spoken or taken the oath that Din Djarin took when he became a Mandalorian. It's just an example of a Force-sensitive child who's taken in by the Mandalorians and becomes a Mandalorian themselves. So I know a lot of you are now asking about Moff Gideon and Din Djarin being Force-sensitive on the show. There was something that Giancarlo Esposito said that made people wonder if Moff Gideon might be Force-sensitive, or may have even been a Mandalorian at one time but was left or cast out like Jango Fett. You have to remember that Moff Gideon would have had a traditional education in the Imperial Academy, so he would have been a teenager during the Clone Wars when this is happening and Din Djarin is being rescued. He's probably about 15 years older than the Mandalorian, so he probably would have been a junior cadet during the Clone Wars. But Giancarlo Esposito said that Moff Gideon, at least on the show right now, himself has a reverence for the Force and the ways of the Jedi. He's very learned and studied in the Force and the ways of the Jedi. His job before he became a Moff was in the Imperial Security Bureau, was information gathering, so he spent all of his time studying and collecting artifacts, kind of like Emperor Palpatine hoarding things. That would have inevitably led him to the Darksaber. He was stationed near the Mandalorian sector during the Great Purge. That would have given him the perfect opportunity to pilfer any Mandalorian artifacts that he wanted, including taking the Darksaber from Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan, who was the leader of the Mandalorian people at the time. And it's through his study of the Force that he's devised his quote-unquote grand plan for reunifying the galaxy under a new empire which involves his plans for Baby Yoda, the child as he calls it. The Darksaber is just one of his prized possessions because of what it represents in its symbolic power, but really Baby Yoda is his prized possession. We haven't seen much from him early on the show, but there are a couple really big surprises from his character that are going to be really cool in the next couple of episodes. Also, when you talk about the Mandalorian Din Djarin and the Force himself, you have to think about his character arc on the show. He goes from being this cynical, jaded, bounty hunter, killer-for-hire mercenary type who then becomes a believer over time, so to speak, because of the influence of the child on him. Baby Yoda inspires him to believe in things like the Force, the Jedi, quote-unquote enemy sorcerers as he calls them. Like he used to hate droids because the battle droids killed his parents, but then IG-11 wins his respect and he stops hating all droids. They made a joke about that during episode 2. It's the same thing with his belief in the Force and the Jedi. It's just that as of me posting this video, he hasn't run into other former Jedi like Ahsoka yet. But the way they're setting this up, though, through his story arc is that he would become a true believer, so to speak, eventually. And I think by that time, by the end of his arc, he himself will wield the Darksaber. But just in terms of how they're pacing the series and that story out, if Giancarlo Esposito did that live stream before the season started, saying that it'd be season 4 before we got all of the answers about what this all means and all the teasers that they've laid down, then I don't think that he's going to be able to take the Darksaber permanently from Moff Gideon until the final season of the show, whichever season that winds up being. They haven't said how long it's going to run, so lay your theories about that. But what'll happen next is my full Mandalorian Season 2 Episode 3 video will post Friday just like normal. Leave all your video requests on the comments below. There's a couple big Mandalorian videos that I'm working on that I'm waiting to post till a little bit later. There's still a lot of really big stuff they're going to be introducing. Ahsoka is just one of the biggest things that they're bringing on to Season 2. While you wait for everything, click here for my full Mandalorian Season 2 Episode 2 video, and click here to learn what's going on with Luke Skywalker during The Mandalorian Season 2. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, this is The Way.